Welcome back to CryptosRus. I'm George. We're all George. So this morning, there's a lot to talk about, including this current Bitcoin bull cycle that you don't want to miss. And now, why did I say that? Well, there's a lot of things that happened this morning. That's why. So let's talk about all those things and more. So welcome, guys. There is the market bell. Best bell in the industry. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about, including this. Payrolls only rose by 145,000. Came in way under expectations. Okay, we had 261,000 in February. And the estimate for this month, which is actually measuring March, is 210,000. So you see, 145,000 is way under than 210,000, and it's way under than 261,000 from February. So what does this mean? That means the Fed and their rate hikes is starting to have an effect. You know, Powell, he's been saying that the job market is too strong. We need to make people a little bit more broke, and that is exactly what we're seeing. But not everyone agrees with Powell. Powell has to be more cautious. He's the man, right? He has to decide whether or not to save the banks, also, and cutting inflation, right? So he has to mind both sides of it. But others in his position think that we need to be more aggressive. We just need to keep raising rates until everyone becomes broke and we're in deep recession. I don't quite get that, but all the other Fed presidents and governors, they're still being super hawkish, saying, yeah, we need to keep raising rates. You know, we're fine. The banks are fine. Don't worry about it. We could always print more money to save them, but we can't print more money to save inflation, because inflation is the byproduct of printing money and overprinting, right? So we have that conundrum right now where one is counterintuitive to the other. But the good thing is, you know what? It's not really up to them. It's really up to Powell ultimately, right? And that's why this next meeting in May, right, 61% chance that the Fed fund rate will not move, will stay put, okay? That is good. And now many people are talking about how there could be a pivot, a huge pivot, and that is the ultimate kind of like signal, and that could be right around the corner, okay? So this is what we have starting today. Well, more worries about the Fed and rates and inflation, right? But here's the thing. You guys know I've been talking a lot about overprinting, over stimulus, I guess, quantitative easing, and now tightening and all these things, right? But ultimately, if you don't care about any of that, just care about this, okay? The dollar, the sterling, the ruble, the euro, the franc, okay, the yen, the anything else. Over time, they have all gone down in terms of buying power. This also includes gold in there too, because gold has not done well over the last 20 years. Okay, not 10 years, 20 years. So if you look at everything over the last 20 years, 20 plus years, your purchasing power has been decreasing. If we pretended like, okay, we were at 100% purchasing power at the year 2000, it would be around 20% or less now. That's how much inflation has robbed you. People don't realize that. People think, oh, $1,000 today is the same as $1,000 20 years ago. It is not. What you could purchase with $1,000 have changed vastly in 20 years, okay? This is what inflation does. It's a silent tax on your money, right? So all the stuff I've been talking about recently about the macro stuff, right? It's very important to realize that is what's happening to your money. You may think you have the same amount of money in your bank account or your 401k or your retirement plan, whatever, right? But just know that all this printing by the Fed and everyone else, what they're doing is basically robbing you of your buying power, which is getting closer and closer to 0. Okay. But here's the thing. How do you counter that? Well, this Bitcoin. Look at the dollar, the buying power of the dollar, right? This goes back even further versus the buying power of Bitcoin. Okay, so if you're worried about day-to-day price fluctuation of Bitcoin, just step back and take a look at this. Okay, this is really mind-blowing in terms of, yes, you're being robbed slowly over time, and it has increased even more since 2020. But Bitcoin has basically been a rocket ship upwards, right? And it is not going to stop. It's going to keep on going. Okay, so this is why we have Bitcoin. This is why we hodl Bitcoin, right? To get away from inflation, to get away from the shenanigans and overprinting, and basically preserve your wealth. You don't want to see it being taxed away by inflation. You want a hedge against inflation, something that will outperform inflation, and nothing has been better at doing that than Bitcoin, right? And here's something else. Don't take it from me. So Van Eyck, one of the biggest fund managers and ETF issuers, he did an interview this morning. I don't know if this is this morning or yesterday, but he was talking about gold and Bitcoin. And he had some interesting things to say. So I want to play this for you guys, hear from his mouth, because this is a veteran, a Wall Street veteran that has turned very pro-Bitcoin over the years. And he thinks that the bull cycle is about to start. So let me get this ready. All right, let's do this.
Interest rates go lower when you see the dollar weaken. That's really good for something like gold, too. I thought it was interesting you just mentioned Bitcoin, because we have seen this rally in Bitcoin. And I know you have a couple of ETFs that are focused on crypto to a certain degree. So do you see it moving for the same reasons that gold is moving, or is there more at play here?
No, I think it's that simple. I think all the speculation is out of both of those markets. There's obviously no leverage in the Bitcoin market with all the regulatory crackdown and all the crises that we've had over the last year or so. So it's up like 70% on the year, best performing asset. Again, rewarding the people that own Bitcoin for that thesis of wanting a hedge in their portfolios.
Mm-hmm. So how do you trust it from here? I mean, Bitcoin has been, crypto has been so volatile. It was an inflation hedge, and then it was a risk asset. And now it sounds like you're saying it's back to being perhaps digital gold. Why?
Well, I call Bitcoin like an 8-year-old child. It's very, very early in the stages of adoption. Either there's so many, institutional investors haven't really gotten involved. Central banks haven't gotten involved. I think that's all possible over the next several years. So if you look at short-term performance, I mean, Bitcoin was less volatile than the NASDAQ at the end of the year. So if you take any short-term time period, who really knows? But the way I put it, this is, if you want to have this in your portfolio as a hedge, it's pound the table time, meaning you're not going to get a big flare. The starting gun's not going to go off. But at some point, the Fed will start this easing cycle, and you will want this in your portfolio. Short term, there might be pullbacks, and it might be a sideways year for this asset as well. But I do think, when the cycle turns, it could be pretty exciting.
He was saying this is the time to pound the table and load up on Bitcoin. That's exactly what he said. So he's obviously very, very, very bullish on Bitcoin. And Van Eyck is also one of the fund managers that's trying to get a Bitcoin ETF approved. Maybe he knows something. Maybe he knows the SEC is going to lose that case against Grayscale, and that means every single fund manager is going to come out their own Bitcoin spot ETF, not futures, spot ETF, which requires them to buy and hold Bitcoin, which he probably has a ton of anyways. And did you also hear he believes that central banks have not started buying, but he believes it's real possible in the next few years. Imagine right now, central banks, or governments, I should say, countries around the world has been loading up on gold. Imagine when they all fight over Bitcoin. when Russia and China and the US and all these other countries, UK and Canada and Australia, they start buying billions upon billions to trillions of Bitcoin, right? In order for them to buy $1 trillion worth of Bitcoin, Bitcoin has to be above $1 million. Bitcoin has to be way higher than it is now, right? All these countries have trillions of gold. Imagine when they're all stocking up on sats. They can't even buy that many Bitcoins because by then, each Bitcoin could be $10 million each, right? So that is why you got to pay attention to this, right? You got to look at the bigger picture. You can't be looking at, as a Bitcoin investor, you can't be looking at day to day, although it's exciting and it's very, you can't avoid that. Everyone wants to know what's happening day to day. But long term, this is what's happening. Central banks will be forced to buy it. Institutions will be forced to buy it. Whales are starting to buy it. Retail investors have been buying it, right? But it's going to be a race. It's going to be a long, drawn-out race to see who can accumulate the most number of Bitcoins. And Michael Saylor arguably is winning this race right now because he's been picking it up for like 2 years. He has not acquired any Bitcoin. He just made a big purchase like 2 weeks ago, and now he made another big purchase, over 1,000 Bitcoins. So now MicroStrategy holds 140,000 Bitcoins. Imagine when Bitcoin is at $1 million each, or $5 million each, or $10 million each. I can't even do the math. Is that what, $14 trillion or something? Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy will be the richest company on earth by far. I mean, that's insane. Insane. Michael Saylor gets it. He knows what's coming. Okay, some might think that he's crazy, too greedy, too over leveraged, but he knows. He knows he stumbled upon something great and fantastic. There will never be anything that replaces Bitcoin. 140,000 Bitcoins. I mean, that's bonkers. Bonkers. But yeah, that's the mentality we should all have. It's just accumulate as many as we can because it's going to be a lot more expensive in the future than now. And speaking of banks, Swiss state-owned bank post-finance to offer Bitcoin trading. What's this about? Well, Switzerland took a huge black eye when Credit Suisse basically went under, forced to be sold to UBS. And now you have another bank that's about to offer Bitcoin trading. Maybe they realize, maybe we should let the people have what they want, which is Bitcoin. I don't know. Or maybe they're like, maybe we need to jump on a bandwagon and at least collect some fees or something. I don't know what their thoughts are. But the fact that Switzerland is letting a state-owned bank offer Bitcoin trading, that tells you a lot. That tells you all you need to know. That countries are now starting to really grasp that you can't stop Bitcoin. So why try to stop it? Let's just embrace it, right? At least we could tax people on their gains or something. I mean, this is incredible. This is why I've said you can't create something that replaces Bitcoin. You can't come close because Bitcoin is out of the bag and most countries have given up on it in terms of, okay, we need to ban it or control it or I don't know, tax it. You know, well, they didn't give up on the tax part, but they realized that it's just too hard to stop because it's a global currency, it's a global network, and even if one state wanted to ban it, which is nearly impossible, I mean, there's so many other states out there, so many other countries that are powering the network. You can't do it. So that's why someone like Facebook, when they want to come out with them, right, shut down immediately. No one is going to allow something like that to happen again. So It's very powerful indeed. Can't be replicated. And yeah, that's why a lot of fund managers, a lot of people think that, you know, Bitcoin could hit 10 million each. Imagine that. Those of you guys that are whole coiners, even if you have one Bitcoin, imagine a day when you wake up, your one Bitcoin is worth 10 million USD. It could certainly happen, especially with inflation. With inflation, that keeps doing this, right? Like this, more money printing, more inflation, right? The cost of goods, cost of services continue to do this and skyrocket. Who's to say Bitcoin can't hit 10 million? Especially, I just got done saying, when the central banks start buying in the trillions, yeah, Bitcoin's going to be 10 million each. And then, you know, people will be fighting over sats. People will be buying sats. If you go on Coinbase, you'll be buying individual sats. You won't be buying individual Bitcoin. That would just be impossible. You have to be a billionaire to be able to do that. You will be buying sats in the future. And when I say the future, I'm not talking about 100 years in the future. We're talking about 10 years, 20 years, maybe 30 years, a few decades, right? We're not talking about 100 years, 1,000 years in the future where Bitcoin's 10 million. We're talking about maybe within 2 decades, 3 decades, that could happen. Just a few more cycles. It's crazy if you think about it. But in the meantime, short term, okay? You know, Bitcoin, I show you guys so many charts like this. The similarities between our current run versus previous runs, so similar, right? And it's really, I don't know how anyone could really doubt this. And here's the thing. The narrative of Bitcoin not being able to do the same thing it has done in the past because we're in a recession, well, I think Bitcoin has proved that it can. It's still doing what it always has, which is, yes, you fall down from the top, but then you pick itself up, and then you go past the previous trend line, and then you go move forward, right? And this all happens according to schedule because of the 4-year cycle, right? So again, you don't want to miss that. Here's another pattern, the falling wedge pattern for Bitcoin that we have clearly broken out of and ready to move further, right? And it's not just Bitcoin. Ethereum, a lot of people have noticed Ethereum has been moving recently. That's because you got a lot of sharks, not whales, but sharks and whales that have been accumulating Ethereum. They've been accumulating everything. I've been showing random articles about whales accumulating on SHIB or Cardano, now Ethereum. I mean, whales are stocking about everything because they also know this is the time to be getting in while prices are cheap, because once we hit that next bull run, the upward swing, I mean, Ethereum will be above 5,000 then. Bitcoin will be above 50,000 then, right? It's much cheaper to be picking up now than before. Obviously, it was cheaper when Bitcoin was at 16,000 and below 20,000, right? When it's most fearful, that's the best time to be picking up. But if you missed out on those days thinking that 12,000 was going to come, well, now's the best time, right? The best time to buy Bitcoin is yesterday or today. I mean, that's the best way to think about it. I don't know if I screwed that quote up, but I mean, it makes sense, right? It just makes sense. And Ethereum, also, their Shanghai Hardfork is coming up in about a week, April 12th. April 12th. So it's the 5th now, 12th. We got about 1 week. So this could be driving up all the accumulation, maybe, but, you know, who knows? Maybe afterwards, Ethereum goes up even more, right? Because then people could freely stake and unstake whenever they want. It's a big upgrade, and it's happening. It's happening. That is pretty much it. The only other headline news today, and it's a very sad news, not that I want to see this, but supposedly one of the Cash App founders, Bob Lee, was killed today. He was stabbed to death in San Francisco. I mean, this is very sad. This is just, it's breaking news, right? It says reportedly. So there could be a chance this is false or false ID or whatever. But if true, that's a Very, very sad story. I don't know what's going on with San Francisco. I've been hearing from many people that San Francisco is completely screwed up now. I visited San Francisco like 10 plus years ago. I thought it was a great city. I don't know what has happened to it since then. But yeah, this is awful. It's a tragedy. All right, that is pretty much it. The U.S. market is mixed today. Probably people don't know how to react to this payroll report, which came in very, very soft. We'll have to see. We'll have to see, but we don't have to see with Bitcoin and crypto because both are going up. All right, let's do some Q&A. And we got 4,000 people in here today. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. People are excited about the bull cycle. Let's see here. Richard says a dozen eggs, $8 here in California, and gallon gas over $5. Yes, I was just in LA. I saw gas was like $5.30 per gallon for regular. I didn't shop for eggs, luckily, because that would have been outrage if I saw they were $8. Yeah. Rick, keep up the good work. Thank you. You're the real crypto gem. Thank you. Let's see. George making me feel FOMO. That's what I'm good at. But it's true, though. You know, it's like, I truly believe these things. I know a lot of people think I'm just like spewing up stuff and you know, speculating. Yeah, I do speculate a lot, but you know, now that I've been doing this for many, many years, studying what I have studied, I mean, there's only one logical path, and that's Bitcoin. I mean, like this. You can't dispute this. For the last 20 years, all major fiat currencies have been going down in terms of their buying power, and you can even throw gold in there. Every single one. You start from 100%, and it's not, because 100% was actually like 100 years ago, not 20 years ago. But even if you start at 100% 20 years ago, you're down to, where's the US dollar at? The US dollar is like right here, like 18% or something. I mean, you lost over 80% of your buying power within 20 years. 80%. And what didn't go down 80%? Bitcoin. Bitcoin went up millions of percent, right? So, like, if you look at this, why would you not be loading up on Bitcoin? Why would you be holding dollars? And look at how much the dollar dropped over the last 4 years. Like, it started going this and then like this, because our government printed $6 trillion. Trillion. And that robbed you even more of your buying power. So let's see here. Eggs are $8.99 here in Utah. That has to be fake. I mean, I still find eggs around here for like $2, $3. Who's gonna pay $8 for a dozen? You might as well just have a chicken. Buy a chicken to lay eggs every day for you. Could BTC go up even if there's a recession? San, I don't know if you've been paying attention. We're in a recession. Okay. GDP recession is defined by 2 falling GDP quarters, and we had that. We actually had 3 quarters where GDP went down. We are in a technical recession. Now, Powell and others in administration refuse to acknowledge that, okay? But we're in a recession. And yes, I do believe Bitcoin can be going up. Bitcoin is the best performing asset so far in 2023. 23%, no, 70%. Nothing else is close. And it shows you Bitcoin does not care about recession or care about economic policy. Well, I take that back. It does care a little bit. The dollar going down and rates being cut, it doesn't care about all those things. But like Van Eyck said, this is the time to be pounding your table if you're going to get into Bitcoin. I mean, he said that. It's his words. Fundmaster, what do you think about the Tangem wallet? I'm concerned there's no backup seed phrase. Well, I've never heard of it. If you're concerned, don't use it. It's that simple. Will we see a Solana season in the next bull cycle? Probably, but I don't think, Tristan, it's going to be as strong as the last one. In 2021, Solana had a really, really good pump, upward swing, right? I don't think we're going to see that kind of strength from Solana, especially compared to its peers. I think its peers will do better. Any info on Bard Protocol AI? It was trending on DEX tools today. Seems to be very popular. No, sorry. I don't know anything about it. Bard Protocol. Yeah, you know, I'm sorry, but I have not been paying attention to anything that like this small. 2 million market cap. And it's only a Uniswap. I don't know. Reese, sorry. In your opinion, do you think the de-dollarization of energy is accelerating in timeline BTC replacing currencies around the world? I like to think so. These countries like Russia, you know, they're starting to embrace crypto. I know Russia said that they will take crypto as payments for their oil, right? And a lot of these other countries, we're starting to see they doing trade without using USD, right? I believe at some point you got to put logic to it, and I know not everything logical, especially when it comes to greed and money and politics, but you got to think, as a country, if you had to embrace a currency, I would say countries would rather embrace a currency that's not controlled by any other country, right? And the only currency that we have that is not controlled by any other country is Bitcoin. Right? Like if you're China or Russia, of course you want countries to embrace your own currency, right? But if you're the US, you never would want to embrace the Chinese yuan or the Russian ruble. You know, it just wouldn't make sense, right? But if you think about all these countries, all these other countries, they're thinking the same thing. I don't know if you're, you know, most countries in Europe are using the euro, right? But let's say the euro collapses or something happens, right? And they had to choose another currency, like to embrace. Why would you not want to choose one that's not controlled by any other country? And that's Bitcoin, right? So I think eventually there's a really good chance. I'm not saying 100% it's going to happen or anytime soon, but maybe not even within our lifetime, or maybe it will. There's a really good shot of Bitcoin becoming the world's currency. Because why not? Because no one can control it. It's governed by code. It's governed by the miners. So it just makes sense. I don't know. Just trying to forward think, right? The end game. I think Bitcoin could become that world currency. Grady, so pumped for the next crypto gem. I know you're very excited about it. Me too. But I'm more excited about season 2. So I think season 2 is going to be crazy, right? But season 1 is, I think, already crazy. Hopefully you guys watch my videos about that. Very different experience. Smaller group, smaller cast, but I think season 2 and season 3 will really blow people away. Can you make a series about discovering microcap gems that may have potential? Stan, I think you come to the wrong channel for that. There's a lot of other degen channels that do that all day long, and sometimes they're right. I would say most of the time they're wrong. These days, it's really hard to find a microcap that will really, really pump, because all the projects that are being released now, they all know the tricks. You know, and the tricks are have a beautiful website, get very social on social media, very active, right? Have an active Telegram or Discord group, you know, make a lot of promises, make a lot of partnerships that may seem like they're great face value, but they don't mean a whole lot. You know, a lot of these projects do all the right things, so it's really hard to tell whether or not they will succeed or they will come, you know, deliver what they promised. I'm not saying don't look at them, but don't put all your faith into them. You know, if you want to get in, maybe a small portion of your portfolio, but all the big caps and mid caps and small caps that already exist, you got 10x, 20x, 30x potential just to get back to its previous highs. And then think about after it breaks previous highs, right? There's another maybe 10x on top of that. Do I still have a Rivian on pre-order? I do. I'm wondering if I should cancel it, because I don't really think I'm gonna take delivery. I'm really scared of Rivian and Lucid, because I think they're both gonna go under. I just don't see how they could compete. Someone like Tesla that's producing 420,000 cars a month, and they are getting killed by Wall Street. Rivian and Lucid, they're producing like 1,000 cars per month at most. They will get absolutely killed. There's no way they could survive. So, anyways, let's call it a stream. You know, Bitcoin and crypto overall showing a lot of strength right now, a lot of strength, and that's because the Fed may be forced to pivot soon, right? But you know what? Bitcoin is the way, because whether or not they pivot, Bitcoin is in its next cycle. It will find that bull stride soon, and this is the time to be accumulating, because you don't want to be stocking up or loading up on dollars when it's been devalued right in front of your eyes. The silent tax keeps taking more and more away. So why would you hold on to your dollar when you could be holding on Bitcoin, right? So let's call it a day. Smash it a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys tonight for more goodness. All right, 8:30 p.m. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
What do you think about Ripple?
Well, I mean, I think it's too centralized, but I definitely want to meet Chris Larson.